What happens to a country that doesn't have enough energy supplies? Well, it seems that we're about to find that out the hard way. The U.S. energy supply shortage is sparking the worst shortfall of fuels in over 50 years. Most of our refineries are already running at almost full capacity and won't be able to ramp up operations and the processing of key oil products to meet the rising demand this summer. Fuel prices have already jumped by 40% since the start of the year. Market strategists are alerting that consumers may see another 40% spike by August. A widespread shortage of fuels is threatening to throw this country into disorder, collapse domestic production, send the price of everything that requires transportation through the roof, and result in demand destruction and nationwide rationing of diesel and other oil products as the imbalance between supply and demand continues to grow. Today, we bring you some sobering numbers, forecasts, and explanations about what is rapidly becoming the worst energy crunch since the 1970s. But before moving on, please support us by leaving a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel so you don't miss our future videos. Oil prices are still moving upwards this week, with Brent crude, the international benchmark, hovering around $120 and surpassing $123 per barrel last Tuesday, marking a 2-month high. At the same time, West Texas Intermediate, the U.S. benchmark, rose above $119 a barrel today, reaching another all-time high. Since February, energy prices have been breaking one record after the other after the Russian aggression on Ukraine further disrupted already limited global oil supplies. In the U.S., drivers are already feeling the pain of skyrocketing prices at the pump. Since the beginning of 2022, gasoline prices have been soaring nationwide, and today they broke another shocking record. American motorists are now paying a nationwide average of $4.91 per gallon, according to the latest data provided by AAA. California drivers are feeling the strongest pinch, with some gas stations in parts of Los Angeles, the San Francisco Bay Area, and the Yosemite region charging over $7.25 per gallon. That's more than the federal minimum wage. Gas in the Golden State rose to $6.37 a gallon today, more than in any other in the nation. Just a week ago, Californians were paying $6.16, and about a month ago, a gallon of gas was selling for $5.80 in the state. Compared to a year ago, Californians are paying over $2.10 more per gallon of gas, the most they've ever paid since the 2012 holiday season. The rapid rise in gas prices illustrates the impact of dwindling reserves and higher demand. Since January, the national average surged by 40%. It's also well above last year's level of $3.04 per gallon. Analysts predict that the $5 per gallon average will become the norm by the 4th of July holiday, as demand is expected to increase even further while supply remains tight. In fact, according to analysts at JP Morgan, California's $6 per gallon average could ripple across the country by the end of the summer. There is a real risk the price could reach $6 plus a gallon by August, said Natasha Kaneva, the head of global oil and commodities research at JP Morgan, adding that prices could go up by an additional of nearly 40% in the coming months. With expectations of strong driving demand, U.S. retail price could surge another 37% by August, the expert forecasted. The only way that gas doesn't reach $6 per gallon is if demand drops due to sky-high prices, JP Morgan analysts wrote in a separate report. At this point, the United States is at risk of facing the worst fuel shortages ever since the 1970s oil crisis. As travel season begins, the head of the International Energy Agency warned. When the main holiday season starts in the U.S., fuel demand will rise, he said. Then we should brace for diesel, gas, and kerosene shortages much more severe and long-lasting than the shocks of the 1970s, he cautioned. Right now, some parts of the country are already reporting acute shortages of gasoline. For instance, in Washington, residents have been coping with gas stations that are running out of fuel in the past few weeks. Motorists who drive up to gas pumps in Kennewick, Pasco, and West Richland are finding notes saying that the station does not have any fuel to sell. On Facebook, Washingtonians are reporting that more than 10 gas stations have run out of fuel. At the same time, some stations in the state are resetting their price boards to accommodate double digits in preparation for fuel prices potentially reaching $10 a gallon, according to a post-millennial report. The move comes as several gas stations in the Evergreen State ran out of fuel, the report says. At the 76 gas station in Auburn, about 30 miles south of Seattle, gas pumps were reprogrammed so the display could indicate a price of at least $10 a gallon. The displays were limited to single digits as recently as March, but the surging price of gas has led to the change, it continued. The worst part is that even though most consumers are already struggling with the rising cost of filling up their car tanks, what they really should be worried about is the price of diesel. The entire U.S. economy runs on diesel. It's what powers the container ships that carry goods from Asia and the trucks that pick up those goods from the ports and deliver them to warehouses and then to your home. The farmers who grow the food we eat need diesel to power their tractors to plow the fields, and the workers that bring construction equipment to build homes need diesel to transport the materials around the nation. Diesel prices have reached another record today of $5.68 per gallon, marking the highest level they've ever been in the U.S. since the government began tracking them. And prices will likely go even higher this summer, not only because of the demand, but also because forecasters are predicting that this year will see an above-average number of hurricanes, which can idle refineries for days. Since the start of 2022, diesel supplies have become tighter and tighter with each passing week, and they'll continue to soar as more people fly, drive, and shop during the summer months, consuming more petroleum products, as explained by Tom Klotzer, the global head of energy analysis for Opus. Unfortunately, I think there's potential for another round of increases. We've already seen the highest prices in our lifetimes, and it could go even higher. This means that just about everything will become more expensive. Last month, Mattel announced more price increases on top of the ones it already posted last year, as the cost of ocean freight and raw materials shot up this year. Meanwhile, Carter's, the maker of baby clothes, revealed that its freight costs would be 10% higher than last year, and that it's raised pricing to cover higher than expected transportation costs. Likewise, the Vita Coco Company, which makes coconut water, exposed that the total cost of its goods rose by 19%, mostly because of a sharp increase of transportation cost. The company said it was going to raise prices for the first time in years. Even big box retailers such as Target and Walmart, which have the power to close better deals with significantly lower freight rates, given the massive scale of their operations, said they're being hurt by the rising cost of diesel. According to a report released by Time, both companies reported hits to their profits for the most recent quarter because of higher than expected freight and transportation costs. Target said it anticipates $1 billion in incremental freight costs this year, as costs in the first 3 months of the year came in hundreds of millions of dollars higher than planned for. The elevated costs to move goods around the country come at a time when many companies are reporting that they're scrambling to find truck drivers. Soaring diesel prices are discouraging owner-operators from driving as many loads because some freight brokers push back against continuing to raise fuel surcharges. That could lead to an even lower supply of truck drivers, highlights Rebecca Euler, the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Motor Truck Association. it's just a matter of math. If you're not getting paid as much to haul a load, there's no reason to run that load, she outlines. Moreover, a shortage of diesel would not only push food prices to unprecedented levels, but suppress domestic food production. In a recent interview, Ben Simons, who farms dairy, soybeans, and corn near Utica, New York, revealed that the climbing cost of diesel and fertilizer means that he has to spend $1,000 an acre to grow corn, up from $450 an acre in the past few years. He's also having to pay more for tires, which have doubled in price, an increase related to the high demand for petroleum products. Simons has decided not to plant on his marginal land this year because of the added expense. If more farmers do the same, he says, you're going to be seeing that in your grocery bill. People are complaining now. Just sit back and wait. This crisis can't be solved rapidly, mostly because the number of refineries in the U.S. has been steadily declining over the past few decades. Refineries process crude oil into diesel and other petroleum products. In 1980, there were 246 refineries in the country. Today, that number has dropped by almost 50%, with only 124 plants operating, according to the U.S. Energy Information Association. The Northeast region is in a particularly vulnerable position, with just 7 refineries today, down from 27 in 1982. With fewer refineries, suppliers in the Northeast and other regions of the country are competing with Europe and South America for diesel supplies, explains Patrick DeHaan, the head of petroleum analysis at GasBuddy. Refineries in the U.S. send diesel to South America, in part because they don't have to meet renewable fuel standard requirements, rather than to the Northeast. Now the Northeast is also competing for diesel with Europe, which lost some of its supply because of the crisis in Ukraine, DeHaan noted. At this point, there's a very small chance that U.S. refineries will be able to make more diesel, especially if demand for other fuels such as jet fuel and gasoline continues to escalate over the summer. The oil and gas industry has criticized the U.S. government for its policies, which they say have kept supply limited. Last week, the administration announced that it was canceling 3 oil and gas lease sales scheduled in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of Alaska, removing millions of acres from possibly drilling. Unfortunately, this is becoming a pattern. The administration talks about the need for more supply and acts to restrict it, stressed Frank Macchiarola, the senior vice president of the American Petroleum Institute, the top lobbying group for the oil and gas industry. Right now, refineries in the Northeast are already running at 95% capacity, and industry executives are warning that the only option to keep diesel supplies from completely running out this summer is a nationwide ration of the fuel. Apart from that, for prices to finally go down, the economy will likely have to go through what economists call demand destruction, which is when the price of something gets so high that people stop buying it because they can't afford it anymore. That consequently leads to less demand and more supply, and ultimately lower prices. There are already signs that demand destruction is happening, and in some parts of the Northeast, diesel rationing has already begun. Unfortunately, it's only a matter of time before these issues hit national proportions, and as drivers, truckers, and ocean carriers start to rush for more energy supplies, chaos will soon descend upon America again.